All right, our last concept for this go-round is the mirror image fallacy. It seems obvious, but I ran across this term flipping through some textbooks this week, and it kind of stuck out at me because I was in a situation where I thought one thing, but a lot of people thought another thing in the workplace. And I couldn't understand I thought the situation was no big deal, and then it actually was for a lot of people. So this was a meaningful concept for me this week. Just because you see a situation one way doesn't mean everyone sees it that way. Obviously, yeah, that's obvious, I know. But when we're dealing with coworkers and employees, especially employees, they might not see things the way you see things. And that's important for us as managers, as leaders, to realize and highlight, yeah, it's just a concept, but put a star next to it. Hey, wait a second. Just because it looks one way to you doesn't mean it looks the same to someone else. Now, this could be due to the background or the frame of reference, the experiences people have had. Some things might seem harmless to you, but creates a lot of fear for other people. I think a big one is education levels. I see this with the guys that work for me. Many of those people who work around the house and stuff only made it, they're primary school graduates. So think of all the thought processes that we have that they don't have. And, did they barely make it through primary school? Do they know this concept, that concept? And we need to highlight it that they see the world in a different way than some of us do, if we see it the same way. So the education levels, for me as their employer, I have to be very careful. I have to attempt. You can't really see how they see the world, but at least attempt to cater to the way they see the world. Being relatively uneducated, they might be offended easier. They might have insecurities as well. And what I think is funny, they might not think is funny. I have to be very careful. Some of us have been around the block a few times, and we're kind of toughened up a bit. I think people are still very weak, but we all have thin skin to some degree. But going back to emotional intelligence, my feeling is the primary school graduates are easier to offend, and they might see other people as way up here while they're down here, and they need that respect. They don't need emotional instability. All of these things would cause them to quit the job really quick, and that's not what we want once we get our people trained, whether it's at the house or at the workplace. Their sense of fairness might be different. They might feel already unequal, and we have to make them feel equal. So education levels is a big one. If a lot of your employees are, depending on their education level, you'll treat them in a catered way that is better for them. Male and female, we see things differently. Also, it might be department by department. When we think of job satisfaction, one department might be happy, and the other department might be jealous of the other department or something like that, and they're unhappy. So just because as an employee, you might be happy, but some other employees might perceive that their situation is unfair for whatever reason. So we have to be cognizant of that. Income levels changes the way we see money, for example. The uneducated or people in other income brackets we all see money differently. $5 might be a huge amount of money for one person. $10 is a huge amount of money for somebody, and $100 is chump change to somebody else. So we have to look into that too when it comes to pay. Also on Maslow's hierarchy, thinking that everybody is floating around on Maslow's hierarchy. We're going to get into that next week on the fully. And you might have the self-esteem and they don't. You might have a sense of belongingness and somebody else doesn't. So that's different too. So we have to see things, try to see things the way other people see things. And what is exciting? You might think that having a family day on Sunday afternoon is an exciting thing, while other people think that's drudgery. Yours truly. So the party is exciting. It's rewarding for one person, but it's miserable for other people. So I just want to put a note here for to pay attention to this and try to think about it this week about how you might be perceiving situations differently than others. And we need to get good, because this goes into emotional intelligence. We have to read other people's situations and even ask questions and do surveys and stuff to find out how they feel about things. Don't just assume that what you think is what they think.